I've got some empty bookshelves, I've got a £50 national book token, so it's time to go book shopping. So I'm going to be hitting up 3 independent bookshops in London, and the mission of the day is to buy some of my favourite books that I've already read to add to my shelf to make my bookshelf feel more like me and my reading tastes. In case you missed it, I did a video recently where I cleared out my bookshelf because a lot of the books were triggering me from a past life and I needed to cleanse my bookshelf, and now I want to try and rebuild it in a way that feels like me and makes me happy and makes me feel joyous when I look at the books up there and be like, oh my god, my favourite books. That's how I want to feel. I've also recruited reinforcements. An internet friend of mine who is also very bookish is in London and will be joining me on this book shopping adventure, and we've never met in person before. And I love that about the internet. So we're gonna have a fun London friend date and book shopping adventure. I'm going in with a little bit of strategy in terms of making a list of some of my favorite books that I've read in recent years that I think deserve a place on my bookshelf. 50 quid is not gonna get me all of these, and I don't have to get everything in one day. This is going to be a process. But I have my list to refer to, but I'm also just gonna let the bookshops kind of dictate it, depending on if I find them or if there's something else that I find that I'm like, oh my god, yeah, I've read that, I fucking love that book, you know? But the books that I'm gonna kind of be like loosely keeping an eye out for are the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. This is the one that I've settled on from him as like, this is what I would want to own. It's the most rereadable to me, and the final book in that trilogy fucked me up. Then I've just put like Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think my top 2 Taylor Jenkins reads are Daisy Jones and the Six and Carrie Soto is Back. And then I've got Emily Henry, question mark, question mark, question mark. I think Funny Story is probably my favourite of hers, so if we find a funny story, I might get that. I put The Count of Monte Cristo. Like, I don't know, I feel like that book is a part of me now because of the journey that we went on. And so if I find like a pretty classics edition of The Count of Monte Cristo, then that might be calling to me, we'll see. I put the 5th season, which I listened to an audiobook, and I feel like there's so much more in those books that I just did not get, and part of me wants the physical copies so I can potentially reread them and like get more out of them, you know? Wayfarers, question mark. Do I want to get all of the Wayfarers or like just the first one, or Record of a Spaceborne Few, which I think is my favourite one, the Becky Chambers books? I don't know, we'll see. I put So Thrilled for You by Holly Baum, but like brackets paperback, because I do have the hardback, which I bought, but I'm just a paperback girly, and the paperback did not exist when I bought that one. I am obsessed with that book. So maybe I buy the paperback and give away the hardback. I put Goldilocks by Laura Lamb, which is one of my favourite sci-fi books. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, also one of my favourite sci-fis. The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. The second book of that comes out this year, so I kind of don't think that's going to be one that I buy now. I might wait until the series is done. I don't know if it's a duology or a trilogy, so that one might not be today. And then I've got some wild card ones that were ones that I was looking at through my story graph of like just books over the years that I've given 5 stars. And I've got Beauty Queens by Libba Bray, which is a hilarious YA novel about beauty pageant contestants and their plane crashes on a deserted island. And it's so funny, it's really anti-capitalist, it's fantastic. Like, it is one that I think I would want to reread because it kind of feels like a fever dream that I read that in. So anyway, it's great. I never hear anyone talking about it as well. Piranesi, and then Heartburn by Nora Ephron. It's not like my favourite book ever. I did like it, maybe because Meryl Streep narrated the audiobook, but I love Nora Ephron, and she wrote my favourite film, When Harry Met Sally. So there's something about me that is like drawn to Nora Ephron and like maybe wants something Nora Ephron on my shelves. Has she written any other books? I should probably look that up. Can I buy the script of When Harry Met Sally? Maybe I want that on my shelves. Anyway, enough talking. Let's get going and do some book browsing. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Whether you are just starting out in the freelance world or you're a small business owner, Squarespace makes it super easy to create your own beautiful website, engage your audience, and sell anything from physical and digital products to courses and even your time, all in one place and all on your terms. I've been using Squarespace for years for my own professional websites and for the various different projects that I've had over the years, and they have so many different flexible website templates, and you just pick whichever one is right for you, and then you can customize it with all of your own stuff, your colors, your branding, your fonts, your content, your pictures, everything. You can add different features to meet your specific needs and pretty much make any template do whatever you want, and they all work seamlessly across different devices. And Squarespace's Fluid Engine website design system makes everything really easy and intuitive. Even if you have no website design experience, you can just drag and drop things and get really creative and have a fun time designing your website the way that you want it to look. If you do have an online store, then Squarespace Payments is the easiest way to manage all of your payments. Onboarding is really fast and simple, and there are loads of different options for how your customers can pay. If you've got more of a service-based business, then Squarespace Invoicing is what you need. You can manage clients and keep track of invoices all in one place, making managing a service-based business really easy and simple. So if you are in need of a website, you can head to squarespace.com to start your free trial, and then when you are ready to launch into the world, go to squarespace.com/morehannah to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring, and now time for some book shopping. It's Jess! Hi! Jess loves books, so I thought she'd be perfect for this book shopping trip. And we're gonna head into Daunt in Marylebone, which I've never been in before.
It's lush.
And it's the one with the lovely, beautiful, like, upper level shelves, etc. It's iconic.
It is iconic.
Let's go.
It's a delight.
An abridged version. It's almost 1,500 pages. This is almost 700 pages. It's half the length.
And half the size.
And half the size. But I think it does have smaller text. The last chapter. Just the last chapter is called the 5th of October. Right. It's the whole book.
It is.
It's the whole book.
Which one are you going to get?
I mean, this one, obviously. The tiny one. I'm not carrying this one.
The tiny cute one.
What the fuck? We've had a lovely North London walk through Regent's Park to Granary Square, and we've built up an appetite. So before we hit the next bookshop, it's lunchtime. But Dawn Books was a success. I spent like 2/3, I don't know what fractions are. Like
3/5?
Yeah, 3/5, like £31 of the £50 voucher. So realistically, I could only really buy 2 more books, but we'll see what happens. But in Daunt, I got Carrie Soto is Back. They didn't have Daisy Jones, which is my favourite Taylor Jenkins read, but Carrie Soto has a place in my heart because I love tennis. We got Heartburn by Nora Ephron, which has a foreword by the author, so curious. And it was also a very pretty edition. And then the pièce de résistance was The Count of Monte Cristo, which is crazy because they had the 2 massive editions. The book is 1,500 pages long, but then you spotted it.
A tiny, really gorgeous, beautiful cover, little hardback pocketbook.
Yeah, and for ages I was like skimming through them both, just being like, is this half of the book? Is this an abridged version of the book? Like, I don't actually know. But I'm fairly certain it's the whole book. So I bought the tiny version.
I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a really pretty book.
And now we're heading to, I think, Morty and Bob's. And we're going to get a burger. And it's down some steps somewhere. We need to go down. But we are in Colestrop Yard. So, word on the water, very wobbly.
Quite seasick.
But gorgeous, beautiful, stunning, cute,
Cozy.
Smelled amazing.
You could sit in there and read.
Yeah, they didn't take national book tokens, so I paid with my own money for Piranesi. I got the stamp. That was great. And I also got some postcards. Bought one for myself because I just really love the art style on it and I want to try and doodle them myself, and then one to send to whoever. Who knows who it'll go to. And now we're just going to continue walking down the canal. We were going to go to Book Bar, but it turns out Book Bar is closed on Mondays.
Alas.
But we are around the corner from Houseman's, which did feature in the feminist bookshop tour of London video that I did years ago.
I remember that one.
It's like a political radical bookshop near King's Cross, so we're gonna go there. And if I remember correctly from when we visited it for that video, they have an excellent sci-fi collection in the basement, in the downstairs bit, because I believe they have like a feminist sci-fi book club. So it's meant to be, because I haven't found any of the sci-fi books on my list, and I still have like just under 20 quid left on my voucher because they didn't take the book tokens. Will Houseman's take the national book tokens?
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
We'll find out.
Fingers crossed for some good sci-fi. Fingers crossed they take book tokens.
But word on the water, would recommend. I feel wobbly and I felt like I almost was about to fall into the canal. We don't want that to happen.
If I was feeling a bit less queasy, I would spend an afternoon in there.
Yeah.
So cozy.
Yeah. Oh look, and there's Ursula. There's the Dispossessed. This is the next one that I want to read. The national book token has been spent.
Success.
Yeah. Did you buy any books, Jess?
0.
I bought 5 on my national book token and then 1 not, because they wouldn't take it. It feels like a good haul. It feels like a good start to the new era of my bookshelves.
It looks like a good haul. You bought some pretty books.
And some pretty books. Yeah. Well, if it's going to be they're my book trophies because I've already read them, it was hard sticking to the brief. At times I was finding books that were on my TBR, and it's no, that's not the purpose of this shopping trip.
Stay on mission.
Stay on the mission. But yeah, Houseman's was actually a great shout.
Houseman's was amazing.
Yeah.
There's like a second-hand bit downstairs that's pure politics, but kind of higgledy-piggledy and really nice vibes.
Yeah.
I loved it in there.
It's great. And they did have a whole sci-fi speculative fiction section. I got the 5th season, N.K. Jemisin, and The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. The first books in series.
Does that mean you now have to buy the rest?
Well, we'll see. I'm happy just having the first one
For now.
And again, it doesn't all have to be done in one go. It's going to be like a process, a slow accumulation of lots of my favourite books over time.
I love it. A joy.
Thanks for joining me.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Go follow Jess on Instagram.
Yeah, do.
She's
Hi.
wonderful.
3 bookshops, a park, a canal, and 14,000 steps later, I'm home. You've already seen them all, but let's just do a quick debrief and book haul anyway. So, in Daunt Books, I got myself Heartburn by Nora Ephron with an introduction by the author. This gorgeous cover, a book that I remember really liking, but also don't really remember all that much about. But like I said, Nora Ephron wrote the screenplay for my favourite film, When Harry Met Sally. And so there's just like a piece of her in me, and I like that she's going to be on my bookshelf now. Then we have Carrie Soto's Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I couldn't find Daisy Jones and the Six anywhere. That's fine. This is a slow process of building up the bookshelves, but very happy to see Carrie Soto. I love tennis, and so having a fiction book by one of my favourite authors that is about tennis and also about fame and family and ambition and pride. I love this book. And then of course this gorgeous tiny like gold foil edged edition of The Count of Monte Cristo, which, if you don't know the lore of my relationship with this book, I read it as a complete wild card for this video that I did where I was reading books based on my personality type, and this book was recommended for someone with a Myers-Briggs ENFJ, and I am not a classics reader, and I was not expecting to like this book at all, and I knew nothing about it going in, and I was just swept up in this story. And then other just beautifully coincidental things happened to me whilst I was reading this book. For instance, it's set in Marseille. I happened to be on holiday in Marseille whilst I was listening to this book. And I didn't know that it was set in Marseille. Like what? And then also staying with one of Dan's friends, and his wife got talking to her about this book. Turns out it was her favourite book. There was a film adaptation out in the cinemas, and me and her went together to go watch the film together. Just so many beautiful memories and like lovely things, and this book was... and now I own it. Will I ever read it? Maybe. Like, I don't understand how 1,500 pages of that book like has fit into like a 700-page tiny thing. I don't understand. I'm like, part of me is like, okay, this explains a lot. I didn't read the small print. This sensitively abridged Macmillan Collector's Library Edition features an afterword by Marcus Clapham. Okay, so it is abridged. It is abridged. That's fine. Is it fine? Am I okay with this? I mean, it is a stupidly long book. Maybe should have read the small print. How do I feel about abridged versions? But I'm still, look at that. The size of the actual one, I was tempted for a second, and then I was like, I'm never actually going to read this. This is so impractical. I'm never going to sit there with this book on my lap and read it. I'm now like talking myself into being okay with having an abridged version. Okay, anyway, next up we went to Word on the Water, the bookshop on a barge. And in there I found Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I adored this book. It's so weird, but then I also love that there are areas in Manchester mentioned in this book, like Whalley Range, which is like around where I grew up. And you never see Whalley Range being mentioned in books ever. Obviously there's like the whole fantastical like storyline, like mystery thing going on, and the way that it is executed in this book is phenomenal. But then the Wally Range Manchester mentions just also speak to me. And then finally in Houseman's, in their sci-fi and speculative fiction section, I got The Long Way to A Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which is the first book in the Wayfarers series. And I think it may be like one of the first sci-fi books that I read as an adult that like really, I guess, started off like my love of sci-fi. There are 3 other books in this series, but they're all like independent standalone stories set in the same universe. This one and the third one, Record of a Spaceborne Few, are my favourites. I can't actually really remember anything that happens in book 2 and 4. So if I do add any other Wayfarers to my collection, it probably just would be the third one, but very happy to have this one. And I also got The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first book in a trilogy. The Fifth Season, The Obelisk Gate, and The Stone Sky. I listened to the audiobooks of these, and honestly, especially in the third one, there was much of it I was like, what the actual fuck is happening? I do want to get into these again a bit more focused with the physical book, obviously starting with The Fifth Season. This book in particular, the narrative structure of this book is so cool and so unique. I say so unique, but it also reminds me of how The Witcher season 1 is told, but very differently, but similar vibes. If anyone's seen the first series of that show, something similar's going on, but not really in terms of the narrative structure. Anyway, I'm excited to learn how you spell all of the names and places of things and people. I can pronounce them. Can I spell them? No. And then I also have a Houseman's bookmark, really big bookmark, and I got the postcards from Word on the Water. So here we go. Here's my haul. 6 new books to add to my bookshelves. Let's do it. Let's add them. Ta-da! Still lots more space. Thank you for watching. Hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.